Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Nathan Drinkard. I'm Jay Wise. Thanks for spending some of your time with us. We're on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere in between. If you're looking for us in the video format, you can find us in the A Drink of Wisdom YouTube channel. Drink, great to be back with you for another outstanding show.
Yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? We had a little, little break on last Friday, so we back in this thing. Hey, man, these weeks, I mean, for me, it comes faster, but like when we miss a show, it feels like it's so much time in between, but then it comes back around so fast. You're like, how much time was it really? So with that said, listen, man, I'm feeling good, feeling great, glad to be back in the lab with you. Once again, another day, another dollar, giving the streets what they need. We see what they don't. Absolutely. Say what they want. Set your dinner plates because it's time to eat. Yeah, it's around that time. It's time to eat. And last but not least, let's talk some sports, baby. Jay, what you got for us today?
All right, we got episode 52. We got some Frank Vogel stuff. We'll begin our NFL draft coverage and the Washington Commanders, and as usual in the news for all the wrong reasons, but we will begin with the NBA play-in tournament, which is about to get set. I think it's going to get set about 15 minutes away. You remember the play-in tournament? That's that thing they came up after the COVID shutdowns, and they had Zion out there, like, let's get Zion in the thing, and it didn't. It ended up being more of a Ja Morant thing and a Damian Lillard thing, and they've stuck with it the past couple of years, and this will be the third play-in tournament sort of thing that we have. And we got the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Brooklyn Nets tonight in the Eastern Conference 7 versus 8 matchup, and then the nightcap will be the Los Angeles Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, the 7-8 in the West. And then tomorrow it's the 9-10 games, the Charlotte Hornets and the Atlanta Hawks, and the San Antonio Spurs and the New Orleans Pelicans. And on Friday, we'll have the 8th seed games, which will be the winner or the loser of the 7-8 on both sides and the winner of the 9-10. So, Drink, that was a mouthful. Anyways, what are your thoughts on our matchups for tonight and tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if the Nets was not in this mix, we wouldn't give two rats tails about this play-in tournament this year. See, last year we got Golden State versus the Lakers, and that did some numbers. And then the fact that Memphis came back and was able to take care of Golden State and actually get in the playoffs, that also did some numbers, because now we see what Memphis is this year. We could kind of say that's where it started in the play-in tournament, I guess. This year, like you said, Cleveland Cavaliers, and listen, for the most part, Cleveland is here because of injuries. Like, if Cleveland stayed healthy for majority of the year, which I know injuries is a part of the game, so I'm not making an excuse, but I know a lot of people probably see Cleveland in the play-in tournament and like, what? I thought they was good this season. Yes, when they had their players, they were a good team. I thought they was like at least a top 5 team in the East this year when healthy. But injuries happen, and now they just slid down. They just slid down in I think the 8th seed, and now they playing the Nets, which is the 7th seed. And the Nets is also a team that, we had, what I'm saying, the expectation for the Nets, man. I'm telling you, like, it was pretty high, and Durant, gets hurt, and he missed, like, I want to say like 30 some odd games. Then we know what was going on with Kyrie, in and out. James Harden ended up getting traded over to the 76ers. They get Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons ain't suited up for a game thus far. But yet it's still, here they are, Jay. Here they are in the play-in tournament. And I will stand by what I said. The only reason this play-in tournament got any interest, honestly, to me, is because we do have the Brooklyn Nets. We do got Kyrie. We do got KD. And we just want to see if the Nets going to drop the ball pretty much. I think for the Eastern Conference, the Nets, like I told you before the show, I think the Nets should maintain the 7th seed, and I think the Hawks should be the 8th seed. Get to them a little later. But I think this is a compelling matchup. I think this is probably the most interesting matchup of the two, even though the Cavaliers have a lot of injuries. But I do think the Nets win tonight. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jay. If the Nets win tonight, that's it for them. They the 7th seed. They good to go. They get ready for the first round of the playoffs.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I think they win tonight. They go on and start prepping for Boston, right? Which is probably the best possible matchup for the Nets we could have asked for was the Celtics versus the Nets. Because remember, we was like, man, we don't want to see Nets versus Heat in the first round. We don't want to see Nets versus the Bucks in the first round, Nets versus 76ers. So it just shook out just right that we will, if the Nets go on to be the 7th seed, that they'll get the Celtics, and all is well in the Eastern Conference setup, right? Listen.
If they win tonight, yeah.
If they win tonight. But by far, if you look at these play-in terms and you say star power, I think is not much to be said. We know the Nets got the star power when I look at the rest of these teams. Now, you got the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young and all that, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory for the Eastern Conference. We'll see tonight. We will see if the Cavaliers can muster up enough to beat them, but I think it's self-explanatory. So, like I said, once again, before I move on to the Western Conference, like I said, I think the Nets will win that 7th seed. I think the Hawks will win that 8th seed, and the other two teams will get packing. Now, in the Western Conference, we got the Clippers and the Timberwolves playing tonight, right? Celtics and Pelicans tomorrow. And it's funny, in the lead-in, you brought up how the Pelicans kind of was getting massaged in the first round of these play-ins, and now here they are back again without the player that they kind of was trying to help the first time around. Go figure. So, Clippers and Timberwolves. Listen, man, I think the Timberwolves probably. I'm looking at these 4 teams. I think Timberwolves are the better of the 4 teams. I think the Timberwolves should be the 7th seed when it's all said and done, and the Clippers will slide in at 8. Listen, the Spurs and Pelicans here. Somebody had to do it because the Lakers damn sure couldn't. So. They're here to, try to get in there. I just don't think either team has enough. Love Dejounte Murray and everything that the Spurs got going on over there with Greg Popovich, but it's a reason why you're in the play-in tournament. And then for the New Orleans Pelicans, man, it's a good little soft golf clap that you even in the play-in tournament. I'm not even gonna lie. So, kudos for playing a little extra basketball, but I think this is where the buck stop for the Pelicans. So I'm more focused on the Clippers and Timberwolves tonight to see which team, make their mark tonight. Timberwolves win tonight. They're done. They move on to the playoffs as a 7th seed. Clippers win. Let's see what's up. And then same thing, like I said, in the Eastern Conference, the Timberwolves have the talent. When I just look at the straight talent that's playing, listen, I like what Timberwolves got with Cat and Edwards and Russell compared to the Clippers. Got some talent. I'm not mad at Reggie Jackson. He been doing this thing. Paul George has come back, but I haven't quite seen what I want to see out of Paul George. We haven't seen, the PG-13. We've seen Paul George. As Skip like to call him, George Paul. We haven't quite seen the real Paul George yet. So they do have some talented pieces. I just think the Timberwolves are better. The Spurs, I just mentioned Dejounte Murray and crew, Kendall Johnson, those guys. Like I said, cool, you're here, but I just don't think you got enough talent to carry this on. Then the Pelicans out here with CJ McCullough. And listen, if somebody want to put up an argument and say CJ McCullough and Brandon Ingram might be more talented than what the Timberwolves got, maybe. I just feel like the big 3 for the Timberwolves, they're a little better, they're a little more consistent, they're more healthier, and they're starting to figure this thing out. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs and just come in here and wreck shop, but I am starting to see a little develop with the Timberwolves where, it giving me, if Karl Anthony Towns can, jump that next level, it gives me kind of Memphis Grizzlies vibes on how Ja Morant went another level. It raised up the rest of the team so well that they kept winning even with Ja not playing. Because, that continuity, that confidence, that I thought they got last year can roll in. And I think Timberwolves could be a team that can do the same thing going into next season. So that's why I got my confidence there. But look, Jay, with that said, all in all, they better hope they keep getting one team in these play-in tournaments, because eventually somebody gonna knock on Adam Silver door and be like, listen, when we gonna knock this off? I mean, it was cool experiment, but when we gonna be done with this? When we gonna just go back to traditional, either you're a top 8 team or you going home? When we gonna go back to that? I think it's gonna be, it's slowly going back to that way. Like you said before, the first year we was all wrapped up about Zion and the bubble. So we're like, okay, could be interesting. And we was without sports for a while, so we didn't give a rip what you name the tournament. Just give us something to watch, right? Now, then you roll into the next year, like I said, Golden State. You got Golden State and Steph. You got the Lakers and LeBron. Probably that joint probably gonna go down as the most watched play-in tournament as long as this thing exists, with those two teams. So once again, we're like, we don't give a rip that it's a play-in tournament. We get the Lakers and Golden State. Sign me up. And it was an interesting one game. Lakers end up winning. And now this year, the only reason we're interested in, because we want to see if Brooklyn going to go out here and flop around. Is Brooklyn if they're going to go take care of business and make the playoffs, or if they're just going to flop around and miss the playoffs, and then we're going to go back and say, hey, Kevin, what you said in that interview, you said you think the season was derailed when you got hurt? Yeah, it definitely looked like that. So everything said, all in all, man, I'm very interested to see what the outcome of the games tonight. Not gonna lie, I will be watching the games probably tomorrow night, but I'm not as interested as tonight. I think tonight is like the pivotal point when you're talking about the Timberwolves with the Clippers and the Nets with the Cavaliers. So yeah, man. And then Friday we'll see the battle of the 8 seeds, or the battle for the 8 seeds. So yeah, man, that's how I'm looking at this play-in tournament as of now.
Such a great point you closed with about like this is the third iteration of this, and the NBA's been really fortunate this season and last season. I think the bubble season, you can kind of write that off, because we would have accepted anything as fans. Like, you could have trotted out the Kings versus the Magic or whoever, and then like, yes, this is great, let's go.
Right.
Like we would taken anything. And last year, as you say, we get the Lakers, we get Golden State in the 7-8 matchup. And this year, so and the Lakers did not belong in that 7 game. Like, they were better. Ended up being Anthony Davis and all the we just have to say Anthony Davis, and
right.
Yeah, put him on the stretcher or whatever. And then this year we know about Brooklyn. Brooklyn doesn't belong in the play-in. So what you have here, you have the bubble, you have LeBron and the Lakers, and you have KD and the Nets. There is going to come a point that, and I really hope it comes here sooner rather than later, so we can get this all out of here, because this is full on gimmick mode. And I'm like, it gives us something to get into because it is interesting, but the substance of it. For example, if you get Brooklyn out of here and you like slide Toronto down here,
we don't give.
What are we even doing with this? Like, right. Oh man, you know what we got? We got Trae Young and LaMelo tomorrow night. Like, all right, well, I mean, cool, but I don't know. I might just turn on some stickball or something. Stickballs in the early season. I'm interested. I'm watching my Astros do some stuff early on in the season. I don't have time for LaMelo and Trae Young, and I swear to you, you're gonna have to. NBA might have to start paying money to watch. If you got a Spurs and Pelicans matchup, like, this is what I'm gonna call the whatever game, because whoever wins, I'm gonna just be saying whatever.
Yeah, right.
I don't care. Like, At least I will say, at least that's the only game to where you got teams with losing records. So the East was kind of wild this year to where you get 10 teams that won 43 games. And that's pretty outstanding. Like, you got to give it up for the Eastern Conference and the depth of the Eastern Conference. But then on the flip side, the West is over here. And, like, it is truly a testament. And we don't want to jump in too far because we're going to get into the Lakers in the next subject. But it is truly an atrocity that you look at a 34-win team in the Spurs beat out the Lakers of LeBron, AD, and Westbrook. That's atrocious. But to the actual matchups, I think another thing that is kind of makes this tournament a little bit less interesting is last year the Lakers and Warriors was something from a superstar standpoint, LeBron and Steph and all that. Like, poor Cleveland just been killed late in the season by injuries. So it's like the interesting thing about that is, like, can Cleveland, like, how will they be able to, like, put up much of a fight? And will Brooklyn come in, like, a little bit too confident and say, "Oh, we're gonna walk over these dudes"? That's really the only angle I'm looking at that game. Like, to me, that there's no reason Brooklyn shouldn't win that game and be the 7th seed. I think the most intriguing game is the Clippers and the Timberwolves. I'm a little bit excited for that one. I haven't seen Minnesota play this season. They got 46 wins, and I don't know how far do you have to go back to the days of Kevin Garnett to find a 46-win Minnesota team? I don't know. But I don't remember Minnesota winning many games in a long, long time. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. But I think, the Clippers, I know Paul George, maybe we haven't seen the best of him yet, but I do think in this type of game, Paul George can easily be the best player on the floor. And in this type of situation that the NBA has created, a Paul George can lead a team into the 7th seed or whatever. I think the Clippers and Timberwolves will wind up advancing no matter who wins tonight, because can New Orleans maybe, sneak on in the playoffs and get, and get beat by a drum by Phoenix? Yeah, they can, I suppose. But I'm not seeing it. I think in the West we'll have Clippers and Timberwolves will be 7 and 8. Whoever loses tonight will just be the 8th seed. And in the Eastern Conference, I think it's a little bit too much to ask for Cleveland. I really do. I think they'll wind up dropping out, and I think the Hawks will likely beat them on Friday night. But those are my upfront thoughts on the matchups. I still think it's somewhat of a gimmick feel to this play-in tournament. I don't even think it's properly named. It's 6 games in total. It's not that much of a tournament. So but it is something for us to talk about. We'll chew on it a little bit. I'm glad you really took a little bit more on this one, because I'm more than happy to just talk for about 5 minutes and we move on.
And there you have it, folks. The play-in tournament.